1991, a boy vanished from his birthday party in Memphis, never to be seen again. 10 years later, his mother finds something at a yard sale that changes everything. Don't forget to like. Please subscribe for more shocking crime stories and hit the bell icon. The darkest truth are yet to come. The afternoon sun beat down on Memphis, Tennessee, its heat rising off the cracked sidewalks of Fraser, a neighborhood where the hum of cicadas mingled with distant sirens. It was September 2001, and the city's reputation for crime, 2,500 violent incidents per 100,000 people, the papers said, hung heavy in the air. Laura Bennett, 45, sat on her porch, staring at the chipped paint on her railing. Her eyes traced the same spot where Evan, her son, used to carve his initials with a pocket knife. He'd been 8 when he disappeared, right from his own birthday party in 1991, at a park just a mile from here. The police had searched for months, chasing leads through Memphis's rough streets, but every trail went cold. Laura hadn't touched his room since, his posters, his toys, all frozen in time. The doorbell snapped her out of her thoughts. "Laura, you ready?" Sarah Coleman's voice came through, sharp but warm. Sarah, her best friend since high school, stood at the door, her auburn hair pulled back, eyes insistent. "You can't stay cooped up forever. Come to the yard sale with me." Laura hesitated, her fingers tightening around the armrest. Fraser's community yard sale, sprawling across lawns and driveways, was the kind of place where people sold off pieces of their lives, old records, chipped mugs, forgotten toys. "I don't know, Sarah," Laura said, her voice low. "It's been 10 years. What's the point?" Sarah stepped closer, her tone firm but kind. 10 years since Evan. "Yeah, but you're still here, Laura. You've got to live a little." Laura's gaze drifted to the street where kids rode bikes, oblivious to the city's dangers. Memphis hadn't changed much. Same corner stores, same boarded-up houses, same undercurrent of trouble. But Sarah was right. She hadn't left the house for anything but groceries in months. "Fine," Laura sighed, grabbing her purse. "Let's go." They drove through Fraser, passing chain-link fences and faded billboards, the air thick with the scent of barbecue and exhaust. The yard sale was a chaotic spread. Tables piled with clothes, electronics, and junk, neighbors haggling under the relentless sun. Sarah parked near a row of houses, their lawns cluttered with goods. "Look at this turnout," she said, her eyes scanning the crowd. "Whole neighborhoods out here." Laura nodded, but her mind was elsewhere, replaying that day in 1991. Evan laughing, running through Overton Park with his friends, the piñata swinging, then gone. No trace, no witnesses, just a void that swallowed her life. They wandered through the sale, Sarah chatting with sellers while Laura trailed behind, her eyes skimming over faded books and tarnished silverware. The normalcy of it felt wrong, like she was betraying Evan by being here. They stopped at a table stacked with old electronics, VHS players, tangled cords, a dusty Walkman. Laura froze. Her heart lurched as she reached for it, her fingers brushing the scratched plastic. It was a Sony Walkman, black, with 3 stickers, a Metallica logo, a Batman emblem, and a tiny star Evan had stuck on himself. This is Evan's," she whispered, her voice trembling. Sarah turned, her brow furrowing. "Laura, you sure?" Laura's hands shook as she flipped the Walkman over, revealing Evan's initials scratched into the back. EB. She could still see him, headphones on, bobbing his head to Nirvana at 7 years old, a year before he vanished. "It's his," she said louder now. "He carried this everywhere. These stickers, he put them on himself." An older man approached, his wiry frame hunched, glasses slipping down his nose. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice polite, but guarded. His name tag read, Henry Caldwell, retired librarian. Laura clutched the Walkman, her pulse racing. "Where did you get this?" she demanded. Henry's eyes flickered, his smile faltering. "Oh, just picked it up somewhere, flea market maybe." "Somewhere." Laura's voice rose, drawing glances from nearby shoppers. "This belongs to my son, Evan Bennett. He disappeared 10 years ago. Where did you get it?" Henry's hands went to his pockets, his face tightening. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, stepping back. "It's just a Walkman." Sarah put a hand on Laura's arm. "Laura, maybe we should—" But Laura was already shaking, the weight of 10 years crashing down. "No, this is Evan's. Why do you have it?" Her voice cracked and a small crowd began to form, whispering. Henry's expression shifted to unease, his hand hovering near a box of trinkets. "Look, lady, I'm just selling stuff. Don't make a scene." "I'm calling the police," Sarah said, pulling out her phone. Henry's eyes widened and he grabbed the Walkman from Laura's hand, shoving it into a bag. "You're crazy," he muttered, turning away. Laura lunged forward, but Sarah held her back. "Laura, stop. Let the cops handle this." Within minutes, a Memphis PD cruiser rolled up, its lights cutting through the humid air. A young officer, Officer Daniels, stepped out, his face calm but professional. "What's going on here?" he asked, eyeing the growing crowd. Laura's words spilled out, frantic but clear. The Walkman, Evan's disappearance, the stickers. Henry crossed his arms, his tone defensive. "She's mistaken. I bought that thing years ago. It's mine to sell." Daniels examined the Walkman, now back in Laura's hands, and jotted notes. "Ma'am, I understand this is emotional, but Memphis has a lot of stolen goods floating around. Could be a coincidence." Laura's heart sank. "It's not," she insisted. "Those stickers, his initials, check the missing persons file for Evan Bennett, 1991. Daniels radioed for a detective, and soon Detective Karen Webb arrived, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd worked Evan's case years ago. She listened, her eyes narrowing as she studied the Walkman. "We'll take it as evidence," she said, bagging it carefully. "Mr. Caldwell, where exactly did you get this?" Henry shifted, his voice clipped. "Like I said, a flea market. Don't remember which one." Webb's gaze hardened. "We'll need you to come to the station for a statement." Henry nodded reluctantly, his jaw tight. As the officers led him to the cruiser, Laura caught a glimpse of a younger man watching from across the street, his face half hidden by a baseball cap. He turned and slipped into the crowd, but not before Laura noticed his sharp, nervous movements. "Who was that?" Laura whispered to Sarah, pointing. Sarah frowned. "Didn't get a good look. Friend of Henry's, maybe?" Laura's gut churned. Something about the man felt off, like he was hiding. Detective Webb approached. "Mrs. Bennett, we'll run. The Walkman for prints and check our records. Go home and rest. We'll call you." But Laura couldn't rest. Back at her house, she paced. The image of the Walkman burned into her mind. "Sarah, that wasn't a coincidence," she said, her voice low but fierce. "Someone knows something." Sarah nodded, her face grim. "I saw a tag on that Walkman, Laura. It had a pawn shop's logo, Beale Street Bargains. It's in a rough part of town, but we could check it out." Laura's eyes lit up, hope flickering for the first time in years. "Let's go. Now." They drove to Beale Street, the neon lights of blues clubs casting an eerie glow over the gritty storefronts. Beale Street Bargains was a dingy shop, its windows plastered with signs about cash for gold. Inside, shelves overflowed with electronics, jewelry, and oddities, the air thick with dust and desperation. A clerk, a wiry man with a goatee, eyed them warily. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice gruff. Laura held up a photo of the Walkman from her phone. "This was sold at a yard sale today. It had your shop's tag on it. Where'd it come from?" The clerk's eyes darted to the side, his fingers tapping nervously. "We get hundreds of items, can't keep track of them all." Sarah leaned in, her voice sharp. "This belonged to a missing kid. You'd better start remembering." The clerk hesitated, then sighed. "Fine. Some guy named Jacob brings in stuff sometimes. Don't know his last name. He was here yesterday, dropped off a box of old electronics." Laura's heart raced. "Jacob? Describe him." The clerk shrugged. "Tall, maybe 30, dark hair, always wears a cap, kinda jumpy." It clicked, the man from the yard sale. Laura exchanged a look with Sarah. "Where can we find him?" Laura pressed. The clerk shook his head. "Don't know. He comes and goes." As they turned to leave, Laura's foot nudged a box under the counter. A piece of paper slipped out, yellowed and crumpled. She bent down, her breath catching as she read the scrawled words. Evan, 3742, Ridgeway Ard, Memphis. Her hands trembled. Ridgeway Road was a remote suburb, a place where abandoned houses dotted the landscape. Sarah, she whispered, showing her the note. This is about Evan. Sarah's eyes widened. Laura, we need to tell the police. But Laura's mind was racing, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. 10 years of dead ends, and now this, an address, a name, a chance. She clutched the note, her voice barely audible. What if he's there, Sarah? What if Evan's alive? Laura Bennett clutched the crumpled note, her heart pounding as she read the scrawled words again. Evan, 3742, Ridgeway Ard, Memphis. Could her son, missing for a decade, really be alive in this city's dark underbelly? The Memphis dusk settled over Beale Street, its neon glow fading as Laura and Sarah sped toward Ridgeway Road, the note burning a hole in Laura's pocket. Memphis's crime rate, murders and robberies plastered across every newsstand made her stomach churn, but hope drove her forward. Laura, we should have waited for the cops, Sarah said, her hands tight on the wheel. This could be dangerous. Laura's voice was steel. 10 years, Sarah. I've waited long enough. If Evan's there, I'm not losing him again. Ridgeway Road was a desolate stretch on the city's edge, where abandoned houses sagged under overgrown weeds and broken streetlights flickered. The address led to a crumbling 2-story home, its windows boarded, paint peeling like old skin. Laura's breath caught as she spotted a familiar car parked askew, a beat-up sedan she'd seen Jacob, Henry's nephew, climb into at the yard. Solly. That's him, she whispered, pointing. Sarah parked a block away, her face pale. Laura, we need to call Detective Webb now. Laura nodded, but was already slipping out of the car, her pulse racing. Just a quick look. I need to know. Against Sarah's protest, she crept toward the house, staying low behind a rusted mailbox. Through a cracked window, she heard voices. Jacob's, sharp and agitated, arguing with someone. He can't know, Jacob hissed. We keep him hidden like always. Laura's heart froze. Evan. She fumbled for her phone, texting Sarah. Call the police. Now. Sarah dialed Detective Webb, her voice urgent but hushed. Laura inched closer, peering into the gloom. The house smelled of mold and neglect, its floorboards groaning under her cautious steps. A faint light glowed from a door at the back leading to a basement. Her hands trembled as she descended, the air growing colder, heavier. At the bottom, she froze, a padlocked door, scratched and dented, with a small vent leaking muffled sounds. Someone was inside. Before she could act, sirens pierced the night. Police cruisers screeched to a stop outside, red and blue lights flashing through the broken windows. Detective Karen Webb's voice boomed. Memphis PD, come out with your hands up. Laura backed away, her heart pounding as officers stormed the house. Sarah rushed in, grabbing her arm. Laura, you're insane. You could have been hurt. But Laura's eyes were fixed on the basement door. Webb approached, her face grim. Mrs. Bennett, step back. We'll handle this. Officers pried open, the lock revealing a dank, dimly lit room. Inside, a young man crouched against the wall, his eyes wide with fear, hands shielding his face. He was thin, his clothes ragged, his dark hair matted. Stay away, he shouted, his voice cracking. The city's gone. They'll kill us all. Laura's knees buckled. Even after 10 years, she knew him. The shape of his eyes, the curve of his jaw. Evan, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Webb held her back gently. Ma'am, let us secure him. He's disoriented. Officers approached slowly, their voices calm. Son, you're safe now. What's your name? The young man's eyes darted wildly. Evan Bennett. But you're lying. The world's dead. Jacob said so. Laura's heart shattered. What had been done to her boy? As officers coaxed Evan upstairs, Laura's mind flashed back to 1991. Overton Park, filled with laughter, balloons, and Evan's friends. She'd turned away for just a moment, refilling juice cups when he vanished. The police had scoured Memphis, chasing rumors of gangs and traffickers, but found nothing. Now, here he was, 18, broken and terrified, believing lies about a ruined world outside. Jacob Caldwell was in handcuffs, his face twisted with defiance. "I didn't hurt him," he spat as officers led him to a cruiser. Laura lunged forward, but Webb stopped her. "Mrs. Bennett, we'll get answers. Stay with your son." Paramedics arrived, wrapping Evan in a blanket as he shivered in the ambulance. Laura climbed in, her hand finding his. "Evan, it's Mom, I'm here." His eyes, clouded with fear, met hers, searching for something familiar. At the hospital, Dr. Emily Carter, a kind-eyed trauma specialist, examined Evan. "He's been given sedatives, likely over years," she said, her voice low. "He's malnourished, psychologically traumatized. He believes Memphis fell to some catastrophe. It'll take time to unravel." Laura nodded, stroking Evan's hand as he slept, his breathing uneven. "What did Jacob do to you?" she whispered, her voice breaking. Detective Webb arrived, her notebook in hand. "We've got Jacob in custody, he's talking." Laura's eyes burned with anger. "What did he say?" Webb sighed. "Jacob's 31 now, but he was 21 when Evan disappeared. He fixated on him, saw him as a brother he never had. He lured Evan from the park with a promise of a secret adventure, drugged him with stolen meds, and kept him in that basement for 10 years. Laura's hands clenched. 10 years? How did no one know? Webb's face darkened. Jacob used fake IDs, told neighbors he was caring for a cousin. He fed Evan lies about a collapsed society, said his family was dead. Kept him docile with drugs and fear. Sarah, sitting nearby, gasped. "That's sick. What about Henry?" Webb flipped a page. "Henry Caldwell's at the station. He claims he didn't know Jacob took Evan, but admits he suspected something was off. Found kids' items in Jacob's apartment years ago. Thought it was just an obsession, not a crime. He's torn up, but we're looking into negligence." Laura's voice trembled. "He had Evan's Walkman. He knew something." Webb nodded. "We're digging into Henry's story. Jacob sold the Walkman to the pawn shop, not Henry. The note you found? Jacob wrote it, part of his plan to move Evan to another hideout. He got sloppy, left it behind." Laura's mind raced, replaying Jacob's argument at the house. He said, "Keep him hidden." Who was he talking to? "His cousin, a lowlife named Tyler," Webb said. "Tyler's been detained, thought it was just a weird game, didn't know Evan was kidnapped. They planned to scare him with fake survivor setups, keep him in line." Laura's stomach twisted. Evan's terror, his belief in a ruined world, it was all orchestrated. Flashbacks hit Laura hard. Evan at 5 singing along to his Walkman, his small hands placing those stickers with care. The birthday party, his laughter echoing before silence took its place. She looked at him now, sedated but alive, and vowed to bring him back to himself. "I'll never let you go again," she whispered. At the station, Laura faced Henry Caldwell. His face was ashen, eyes red. "Mrs. Bennett, I swear I didn't know," he said, his voice cracking. "Jacob was troubled, always collecting kids' things. I thought he was just odd. When you found the Walkman, I panicked. I'm so sorry." Laura's anger flared, but grief overpowered it. "You could have said something years ago," she said quietly. "Maybe I'd have had my son sooner." Henry hung his head. "I failed him. And you." Webb stepped in. "Mr. Caldwell, you'll face charges if we find you withheld evidence. For now you're free, but don't leave town." Laura turned away, unable to look at him. Her focus was Evan. Nothing else mattered. Back at the hospital, Evan stirred. His eyes clearer but still haunted. "Mom?" he whispered, his voice small. Laura's heart leapt. "Yes, baby, it's me." He studied her face, memories flickering. "Jacob said you were gone, said Memphis was destroyed." Laura took his hand, her voice steady despite her tears. "None of it was true, Evan. I've been looking for you every day. You're home now." Dr. Carter returned. Need therapy, intensive care. The drugs and isolation did damage, but he's young. With support, he can recover. Laura nodded, her resolve unbreakable. I'll be with him every step. Sarah, sitting quietly, squeezed her shoulder. You're the strongest person I know, Laura. As dawn broke over Memphis, Laura sat by Evan's bed watching him sleep. The city outside buzzed with its usual chaos, sirens, traffic, life, but in this room there was hope. Jacob was behind bars, charged with kidnapping and abuse. Tyler faced lesser charges, unaware of the full crime. The pawnshop clerk, just a bystander, was cleared. Every question Laura had carried for a decade, who, why, where, was answered, though the pain lingered. Evan's hand twitched in hers, and she thought of the birthdays they'd missed, the years stolen. But they had time now. Her love, relentless and fierce, had brought him back. She leaned close, whispering, "We'll make it right, Evan, together." Outside, Memphis woke to another day, but for Laura it was the first day of a new life, one where her son was finally home. Well, have you ever heard of a case like this? Comment your thoughts. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and catch you in the next one.